This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
So here we go. Today, for the UFO news topic, I've got one good, really good story I want to go with for today. Kind of delve into this. You may have heard about this one in the past. This is the story of a gentleman who goes by the name of Valiant Thor. Valiant Thor spent some time in Washington, D.C. There's a book written about him called Stranger at the Pentagon by Frank Stranges. Let's take a look at what this is all about here. Got 3 sites that I brought up dedicated to this information. Okay, the book Stranger at the Pentagon tells us a very peculiar story about an extraterrestrial on a mission. His name was Valiant Thor, and many believe that he was real. 8 a.m., March 16, 1957, Valiant Thor arrives in a ship which lands in Alexandria, Virginia, in an agricultural field. According to Dr. Stranges, Thor was about 6 feet tall, 185 pounds, with wavy hair and brown eyes. The police were the first ones on the scene and found him calm with only one request: to meet President Eisenhower. So they took him through the Pentagon, where he met with the Secretary of Defense and later with Eisenhower, Nixon, and the Joint Chiefs. Valiant Thor remained in the United States for 3 years. According to the book, he had been sent to Earth by the High Council to intervene on behalf of intergalactic community. They were worried about our nuclear capabilities and how nuclear warfare could lead to the obliteration of the human race. As outlandish as his claims seemed to be, photographs have surfaced of Thor meeting with top officials, and no one has stepped forward to dispute them. Dr. Frank Stranges, the author of Stranger at the Pentagon, was a federal marshal and chaplain who had top secret security clearance at the Pentagon. Stranges' account was backed up by Harley Byrd, the nephew of Admiral E. Byrd, who worked for the Department of Defense from 1957 through 63 and was assigned to Project Blue Book, the secret military program that investigated UFO reports. Even members of President Eisenhower's family, including his great-granddaughter Laura Eisenhower, insist the story is true. The same story was told by the late Phil Schneider, a geologist and engineer who said he had level 1 security clearance in secret government projects. He helped build underground military bases and worked at the famed Area 51 base. Schneider, of course, said he also met Thor and had leave Earth in the 50. Of course, the story is highly controversial, and many believe it is just strangest imagination. But can we deny that many governments know about the existence of extraterrestrials? Maybe even that they had direct contact with them? Maybe the tales about kings and leaders contacted by gods or messengers in the past. Maybe Valiant Thor was just another extraterrestrial guiding us. Tell us what you think. All right, so here's the images. This is Valiant Thor. Okay. Oh, wait, is this Valiant Thor, I think, down here, and this is Frank Stranges. Okay. So, here's another place. You got a video here. You can watch that video. I'm leaving the link available for you. 1959, Dr. Frank Stranges E. had his first physical encounter with Commander Valiant Thor, a Venusian. His book, Stranger at the Pentagon, explains the details of his encounter. First meeting. When I asked him where he was from, he replied, "I am from the planet that is called Venus." I asked him how many of us were presently on Earth, and he said, "There are present 77 of us walking around among you states. We are constantly coming and going." March 16, 1957, Alexandria, Virginia. One of the finest leaders of the planet Venus, operating under the direction of the Central Control, and who has been chosen to make the contact as well as direct the project, landed his craft and was met by 2 police officers, weapons drawn. A thought transference quickly convinced them that he meant no harm, and he was ushered into the back seat of their patrol car. After crossing over into Washington, D.C., they were met by Secretary of Defense along with 6 of his staff members. Soon, police from every conceivable district and agency had joined in, all trying to claim the right to escort him to President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Though his own version of the power of positive thinking, he was able to dismiss them all and soon passed through the security post, followed by an Air Force captain. Meanwhile, his presence in the area had thrown everyone into a dilemma. The introduction he held from the High Council worried them because he was not written in any earthly language. Their minds were given the power to properly translate the inscribed message. Captain Gould, not his real name, asked him to remain, and after downing 2 plain bourbons, muttered, "My God, why couldn't this have happened on my day off?" Suddenly the door opened. 6 armed guards led Val to what appeared to be an elevator. He went rapidly to the bottommost level. Maximum security was in place. After transferring to an underground train, they sped towards the White House. 6 officials, 6 armed guards, and 3 Secret Service men escorted him into the office of President Eisenhower. From behind the desk, the president rose, while the Secret Service men remained nervous and uneasy. As he extended his hand to shake that of the president, the Secret Service men drew their revolvers and pointed them at Val. Following the nod of the president, they reluctantly lowered their guns. Standing in front of the desk, the president said, "Of course, you know we have suspended all rules of protocol. I have a good feeling towards you. Please, sir, what is your name and where do you come from?" "I come from the planet your Bible calls the morning and evening star, Venus." "Yes, sir. Can you prove this?" he asked. "What do you constitute as proof?" He quickly retorted, "I don't know." "Will you come with me to my ship?" He answered with a quizzical look and said, "My friend, I cannot come and go as I please. There are others to be considered. There are committees to be consulted, security measures to be adhered to. Please spend some time with us here. Let's get better acquainted, learn more about one another. Perhaps soon, real soon, we shall see." At that moment, another gentleman rushed into the room. It turned out to be Vice President Richard Nixon. He appeared to Val to be very sharp, quick-witted, with fixed eyes and amazing aptitude towards speed and proficiency. "My name is Valiant," he said as the president thrust his hand without hesitation. "You have certainly caused a stir for an out-of-towner." The vice president smiled as he continued, "Of course, we are not totally convinced of anything just yet, but suffice it to say that we are checking and double-checking everything you say and do. When Sergeant Young from Alexandria radioed in and stated that you had just landed in a flying saucer, we thought," he continued, "Sergeant Young had flipped. Say, were you in that on a UFO flap over Washington? You certainly had us all in a dither if you were." After assuring them that this planet had been under close scrutiny for hundreds of years before the 1945 bomb blast, and with his special letters still in slight quivering hand to the president, he was requested to follow the Secret Service back the way they had come to the Pentagon, into a beautifully furnished apartment where he would spend the next 3 years. Fortunately, he was prepared for such a lengthy visit and kept in constant communications with the starship. There were many occasions during which he teleported himself in and out of those quarters, often exercising trans imagery to cause the security guards to visualize his face on a non existent badge. Soon after his arrival, together with 3 members of his crew, he joined a convention in the backyard of his home of Mr. Howard Menger in Highbridge, New Jersey. The month was April 1957. A certain group of individuals who were interested in UFOs were meeting that day. Val and his crew, Don, Jill, and Tanya, had changed into the same type of clothing worn by their Earth friends. The meeting was very interesting, and these people were on the right track. He was dismayed to learn the undignified manner in which these people were treated by the press. Nevertheless, these people were pursuing their beliefs, and this was good. A curious young photographer, August C. Roberts, snapped several pictures thinking he was doing so without Val's knowledge. The photographer seemed to be greatly troubled when he attempted to talk to him. Yet it was in those very photographs which were to bring me together with this unusual man on that cold December day. Holding the message from the High Council in his hand, the president stated that Val's offer to help human family would upset the economy of the United States and could plunge her into the abyss of chaos. In brief, he politely told Val that the people of the planet were not ready to cope with such conditions as would come into the existence, or the recommendations of this unearthly visitor were put into action. Nevertheless, he was invited to assist a number of scientists who were out working on medical projects directly associated with the space scientists. His allotted time to acquaint the leaders of the United States with his suggestion was limited to 3 years. During this time, he refused to advise them regarding a certain bomb in the sky, which we know as the Star Wars system. In his apartment, he was able to maintain communications with his ship and kept informed of the growing world tensions. His uniform underwent rigid tests by that time. By today's standards, they would now be obsolete. They attempted to penetrate the material with a diamond drill, but it snapped under the pressure. Acid rolled off the uniform and burned a hole in the floor. They fired a high-velocity rifle at the uniform, but it failed to pierce it. The report to the president read, physical appearance, soft silver, gold lustrous. Fabric unknown. Weight, 6 ounces total, including boots. Cut, close fitting like a tunic. No cuffs, pockets, buttons, zippers, clips, or hooks. RXT-2 test, indestructible. Finally, a bright-eyed colonel escorted him to the place where the final test would be performed. Val looked at the laser instrument amusingly. Upon command, the laser aimed a fine line of intense light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. The colonel began his discourse. This device contained a crystal synthetic ruby in which the atoms, when stimulated by focused light, was amplified and concentrate these waves, then emit the beam. As the colonel continued to speak, his smile gave way to utter dismay, the ray being totally ineffective against his garment. He babbled on long after the laser had been turned off, reiterated how powerful the U.S. had become since the splitting of the atom. He gave Bell a lesson in atomic fusion. He went on to state that when a chain reaction of nuclear fission is set off by a neutron bombardment in the atoms or the change of plutonium or uranium isotope with an atomic weight of 235, an intense quantity of energy is suddenly released. The good colonel finally talked himself out, and Val was conducted back to his quarters along with his uniform. 1959 was drawing to a close. Chiefs of state were in a constant turmoil, and confusion was the rule of the day. Indecision caused delay after delay. Economists and industrial giants conferred with politicians and military heads daily. The government leaders could not reconcile Val's being in position to force their hand if he so desired. Several scientists attempted to learn the secrets of interstellar travel without success. Christmas week was now upon us. I had been busily presenting a series of scientific lectures and speaking at a number of churches in Washington, D.C. Earlier this month, I had returned from Cuba, where I personally met with Fidel Castro. Unbeknownst to me, Val, working with Nancy Warren, she was one of the very few since his arrival at the Pentagon, in whom he was able to discern an honest and open heart who loved Almighty God, her country, and fellow man, formulated a plan whereby I would be contacted. Many Earth people live one life openly, while in their hearts and minds live quite another. Double-mindedness seemed to be the way of life in the Pentagon building that served as the busy nerve center of our nation. Val once remarked to me that he had never witnessed in one central location such centralized confusion. All right, you can see that there's a whole bit more here. Well, actually, let me finish this up here. It says, being a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, while a student of the Bible for many years, coupled with my experience as a special investigator, I felt as though my senses were functioning properly, that I knew exactly what I was about to do. I was on guard for fakes and frauds. In walked a man 6 feet tall, 185 pounds, brown, wavy hair, and brown eyes. All right. So there you go. There's a good little introduction about Valiant Thor. There's a lot more to it. I put another link up here for you as well, so you could check this out. This is valiantthor.com. It's a fan site dedicated to Valiant Thor, so you can read all about him in more detail and learn more about who he is and what he's about, his time at the Pentagon. There's a book out there called Stranger at the Pentagon. You might want to pick that up and check it out, because it will help you to understand a lot more about the subject than you currently do. So there you go, Valiant Thor. So it's been a while. We've had people and beings coming in and out of our system. Crazy part of the story is how he wanted to help humanity, but the president at that time didn't think that humanity was ready for that kind of help, because it would throw off the power structure down here on Earth. So it's only a confirmation of what many have surmised has been going on for such a long time, that there is this power situation that's taking place here. And Earth doesn't want to give up the power to extraterrestrials. So if you ever needed a really good example of this, there's a perfect one right there. Perfect one right there of not wanting to give up any sort of information, give up any sort of power to a race or a being that might be able to help you, because it would take your power away. So there you go. Valiant Thor, firstcontactradio.com is where you can find all the links to the stories for today. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out.